Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about why rows in general are superior to pull-ups and chin-ups for back development. Now, as soon as I say that, you're going to have people who are unfamiliar with my training history and what I promote and what I'm capable of doing. He'll say, oh, you're just like a fat power lifter who's bad at pull-ups, so therefore you're going to promote rows. And that is very far from the truth. I set strength standards for the pull up and chin up. You guys have seen me while weighing 220 plus do 100-pound dead hang chin ups. For a phase last year, for an entire month, I ran an experiment where I did 100 chin ups every single day, 7 days a week, for almost a month straight. I happen to like the chin up and pull up. Okay? I happen to like them. However, when it comes to overall back development, I frequently get clients who put a massive focus on the chin up or the pull up who simply lack the overall back development that we would want. They have specialized in pull ups and chin ups and they have ignored rowing. And some people might get away with that to some extent if they do a ton of deadlifting, but if they're not someone who's built a massive deadlift and they do that, okay, let's say they have a weaker deadlift. I'm talking a 300-pound or lower deadlift. They don't have a 500-pound deadlift. They haven't built their whole back musculature up. They haven't used a bunch of good mornings and other stuff to help build that deadlift either. And they've done chin-ups or pull-ups to the point to where they're quite strong on them. You know what I frequently see? I frequently see a lack of back. They might have a little bit of lat. They usually have some bicep. But they're usually at a lighter body weight and they don't have big legs, so their pull-up numbers look inflated, because they weigh 160 pounds. Well, yeah, if you weigh 160 and you got decent lats, you probably are going to have a pretty strong chin-up or pull-up in terms of the weight on the bar, but it doesn't mean that the weight you're pulling up is really big. But here's the thing. I'm going to get into upper back and stuff in a minute. But let's talk about back development in general because you guys are going to see me doing both inverted rows and pin lay rows. All right. Pin lay rows will build more overall back. Across the board, this is not even subject to debate. Why? Because you're standing, you're using your erectors more. All right, your low back, your posterior chain gets a lot of isometric training on rows. And I'm not talking about cheat rows. I'm not talking about bodybuilder rows. I'm talking about like a stricter pin lay row, this used to just be called the row, by the way. This is a traditional row, as it was done by athletes and lifters for decades before the cheat rows became popular from bodybuilding. Ironically, yes, the stricter variation was the original, and the bodybuilders who often talk about strictness, who generally aren't very strict. If you guys ever watch a pro bodybuilder train, if you think that they do anything remotely strict, they find a way to cheat and flop and do partials on the machines. They're generally the opposite of training strictly. They use body English and swing on isolation movements while talking about strict and mind muscle connection and tension and all. So they talk about it, but none of them actually do it. It's quite comical. And it's no coincidence that the bodybuilding row is a big cheating flop thing to where they're flopping their whole body around like a big fish. Because that's what they do on every other lift. Why wouldn't they do it on a lift where it's easy to do it? They manage to do that on machines. So, come back over to the point. That's the original row. Well, you're training the low back. You're training isometric strength through the posterior chain. You are training the erectors to some extent. Okay. A pull-up and a chin-up simply cannot do that. They simply cannot do that. Now, people say, well, we didn't mean the lower back, we mean the rest of the back. Well, that's a good point. Because what part of the rest of the back does the pull-up or the chin-up work? Works the middle back. In fact, it's phenomenal for the middle back. On a set-for-set basis, right? A set-for-set basis might be the best mid-back exercise. What do we mean mid-back? We mean the lats. Okay? We mean the latissimus dorsi. Big old muscle you see under my armpit there. It gives you the V-taper. But as far as the upper half of your back goes, that only accounts for about half the muscle there. It only accounts for about half the muscle. There's a lot of other muscles through your back. You have the trapezius, which again has 3 parts, and those get hit differently depending on what we're doing. You have the lower, middle, and upper trap, and yes, the emphasis can vary a lot on those. Some exercises hit some of those more than the others. Pull-ups and chin-ups don't hit the traps particularly well, guys, and that is part of your back. You have to remember your trap goes all the way down to the base of your rib cage. It's not just the thing sitting above your neck. That muscle goes all the way to your bottom of your rib cage. That's where it starts, and then it goes all the way up above your shoulders, all the way up to your neck, right? Pull-ups and chin-ups don't hit that very effectively. How about your rear delts? It's part of your back. They don't hit the rear delts particularly well. They hit them, but by comparison, not even close. You can get really good at pull-ups and chin-ups, all right? I know guys who can crank out sets of 10 with a 45-pound plate who still have underdeveloped rear delts. You got rhomboids. You have all these other smaller muscles all through there. Pull-ups and chin-ups do not hit them as effectively as rows do, and it's just because of the angle, right? Look at what you see me doing there. That is more of an upper back specialized row. Right, I'm doing an inverted row with a wider grip, and the bar path is way up. Because when we do normal pin lay rows, we pull to the lower chest, which is very balanced. It works the upper back, lats, and everything evenly. This is working the lats still, but they're being de-emphasized with the upper back being given more emphasis. Okay. But in terms of overall back development, this would probably balance out a pull-up or a chin-up. You could do them concurrently with them, and that would probably balance it out. It'd probably balance it out. If you wanted to put a heavy focus on pull-ups and chin-ups, adding this in might get the upper back. Pull-ups and chin-ups simply do not build the upper back that effectively. And I'm not saying they aren't a great exercise, but if someone wanted to be an exercise minimalist, they'd put all their effort into rows. Okay, because as far as the lats go, we can argue, okay, well, we can get slightly better stimulation potentially on a rep per rep basis on a pull-up or chin-up. What happens over the course of the higher volumes of training? All right, what happens when you start doing large amounts of rows? Because I put most of my lifters on very high volumes of rowing. I do very high volumes of rowing. I do 20 sets of rows every week. How many of you guys are doing 20 sets of limit sets, right? 20 sets of limit sets on pull-ups and chin-ups. I doubt it. And even if you did, your upper back would still be lagging. You'd have to find a way to hit it. Then you have the fact that, again, the pull-up and chin-up doesn't help with the low back either. So realistically, if a person wanted ideal top-to-bottom development for base building, they would do a pin lay row as their main back exercise. Okay? It gives you a balance of upper and middle back in one movement, trains the low back and posterior chain isometrically. It's better for overall development. The pull-up and the chin-up is more specialized. I'd say the pull-up and the chin-up is probably better for your biceps too. Like if you're trying to just get big lats and big arms, okay, I get it. I get it. But if you're trying to get a thick, strong back top to bottom, the row is going to crush it. And I'm not saying you have to pick one or the other. I got clients who do all of this stuff, depending on what we're doing. I have no problem with a lifter doing 2 or 3 different forms of pulls for their back like this, right? In a single training block, it's fine. It can be done. And we usually do a lot of it. Again, most of my lifters, we do a lot of pulling. We do very high volumes of pulling. I have no problem with people doing multiples. So this isn't a case of saying, oh, you should just do this over this. It's the fact that what we see is people picking the inferior exercise to do exclusively. And I don't think we should do just one thing exclusively, but if we did, it would be the row, not the pull-up. And therein lies the problem. I see a lot of guys who are pretty good at pull-ups and chin-ups who still do not have great back development, and they are weak overall accordingly. Okay, they still can't bench or deadlift shit because they haven't built the proper back as a support musculature to handle all of it. All right, guys, well, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.